Welcome to today's webinar, 6 Secrets to Leadership Engagement, Accomplishing Results Through People, hosted by DialogueWORKS. Let's now turn the time over to today's presenter, John R. Stoker. John, it's all yours.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Obviously, you're here because you're interested in improving engagement and maybe even your leadership. I would hope so. That's quite exciting. Before we begin, I want to ask you 2 questions just to think about as I'm speaking, or even maybe contemplate and answer later. 1, do you want to engage with your people? And if not, why not? And secondly, do your people want to engage with you? If not, why not? Answering those 2 questions might be telling, to say the least. So let's begin on a path to trying to help you improve your leadership and your ability to increase engagement with your folks. So who's this webinar for? It's for leaders who want to achieve superior results by increasing employee engagement, focusing effort toward a mutual purpose or a common vision, talking about tough topics in difficult situations with difficult people. That still seems to be a major challenge. And finally, who wouldn't want to improve collaboration and teamwork? In addition, this session is also for those who want to connect with people in a way that increases engagement. Now, perhaps you'd like to also increase how you lead effectively and achieve results through people. You want to expand your capacity to be the leader that achieves results. Now, maybe you've read a number of books and blogs and attended trainings, and yet you still have unaccountable people, some who are unproductive, maybe those who just don't understand things in the same way you do, and so they're inefficient in how they use their time. We often are surrounded or deal with emotional people, quite frankly, and even difficult people, those people who just seem to avoid others or stir the pot. Or maybe there's people who are actually disengaged. So, my promise today is to give you some secrets for connecting and achieving results through people. Now, before we go too far, I just want to say that there's nothing for sale in this webinar. We're coming from a place, I hope, of total integrity. So I would hope that all you would do was learn, take some notes, and be able to apply the principles that you'll learn today that will increase your leadership and the way you get results through people. So let's begin with a few fun questions. Does this sound like you? Are your people consistently missing established goals? This happens. Are people afraid to speak up for fear of retribution? There was a recent study that was done that said 40% of people in the workplace still are afraid to be open, honest, and speak up for fear of consequences, retribution, negative things that may come or befall them. 3, is there a lack of employee engagement that's impacting productivity? You have those that are really stellar and others who just seem to be kind of apathetic. Or maybe you've got teams who avoid collaborating and really don't support each other, so you don't get the results that you want. Or you may have some individuals, which may be you, who avoid dealing with difficult or emotional people. Obviously, that's an emotional intelligence issue, and I'll teach you something today that will help with that. There's other things we could do down the road, which we may. 6, do employees complain that they don't feel valued or recognized for their contributions? If that's what you're kind of getting, then you're probably asking yourself or wondering, why am I stuck with the same results? Why am I not seeing the fruits, of my leadership? Maybe you're tired of the flavor of the month training in hopes of getting a different result. So you go to training, you learn some great things, you have a good time, and then what kind of happens? You don't know exactly, perhaps, what principles or skills will get the results now that you need or want. But what we found over time is that the real problem is that leaders haven't made a change in the way that they deal with their people. And obviously, if they haven't, then they're going to continue to get the same results. So what would an effective change create? How about confidence to talk about tough topics with difficult people? Or how about, wouldn't you love it if people increased their own responsibility and managed their own results? How about support and initiative during a culture change? People would actually support what you're trying to do and take initiative to do what it is that you're asking them, rather than just waiting around and seeing if this is the flavor of the month or if anything will change. 4, who wouldn't want to increase employee engagement? 5, wouldn't you love the ability to deal with emotional people in a way that was rational and would actually help you resolve the conflict and come up with a solution? Maybe you wish you were more influential and could influence your teams to collaborate and contribute in a high-performing way. Or how about accountability to meet expectations? Wouldn't you love it if people took accountability to actually make sure they were clear about what you expected and actually delivered on that? It'd be fantastic. How about productivity increased through candor and openness? If people could be honest and open about what was going on so that they could make the needed changes that would improve the way they produce the results. All that is what we want to deal with today. So a little bit about me. My name's John Stoker. I'm the CEO and founder of DialogueWORKS. I'm the author of the book Overcoming Fake Talk, and I'm a frequent contributor to Entrepreneur, Smart Brief on Leadership, Inc., HR.com, and other magazines. I have over 20 years of experience in leadership, dialogue, emotional intelligence, and conflict resolution. And what I'm going to do is help you today increase your engagement. So why am I doing this? You know, I remember what it felt like to be managed dysfunctionally. My first manager in corporate America was a pretty direct, harsh individual. He did a lot of blaming, threatening, and sometimes he would even yell. And I found myself waking up each morning, even dreading the thought of going to work. I actually would wake up kind of shaking, and I'd realize that and just take a deep breath and reground myself and just kind of let my body relax before I kind of sprang into action. Then not long after, the time came when I got promoted to be a manager, and I remember being horrified and what it was like to manage others without people skills. So that's why I'm doing this. Now, WorkQuiz did some research recently, which was kind of shocking, that said that 70% of managers said they were afraid to talk to their people. Imagine that. I coupled that with the Gallup information and research from 2017 that indicated that 67% of employees said they were disengaged at work. Well, no wonder. If leaders are afraid to talk to their people, and they're not, then people are disengaged. You can see the relationship there. And then Moz did some research and identified that 81% of employees would rather join a company that values open communication rather than other perks. And when they went in and asked, well, what are the perks you're talking about? They said rather have open communications and bigger bonuses, more vacation days, better healthcare options. And the researchers were shocked because the people actually recognized that if communication was open, if there was high engagement, then work would be more enjoyable. And that was more important to them simply than the perks that the company thought was important. So what am I going to do in this session? There's 2 things I'm going to do. One, I'm going to talk about a few clients that we've worked with who've transformed their leaders to achieve results, what they did and why. And secondly, I'll teach you the 6 secrets to leadership engagement. So when I'm done, some things you'll never have to do again is stay awake at night worrying and wondering how to say it right. I think there's a lot of that. If I say it wrong, everything will blow up. So if I don't know what to say, then I'm not going to say anything. Or micromanaging out of fear, you won't get results. So notice the reason that micromanagement often occurs is because of the lack of trust that somebody has that their people won't perform the way that they hope they will. And then just worrying in general about goals that wouldn't be met. And finally, always having to challenge your people to step up. If we could basically eliminate those, how fantastic would that be? So you're here today because you had the courage to learn a little bit about maybe some things that you could do better to connect with people and increase engagement. So here's a question you might ask yourself. Are you seen as the leader that everyone wants to work for because of the success and opportunities that they will enjoy? Are you that leader? If not, then we want to change that. Now, this morning when I was reviewing my slides, I thought, man, I ought to make these slides available. So I just want you to write this down. Grab a paper and a pencil and write this down. If you'll take your phone and text 6 secrets to 801-800-8823, you'll get an email, a text actually, back from me that says, oh, you want the slides? Who are you? You put in your name and text that back. You'll get another text message that says, where do you want us to send them? You put the email where you'd like to receive them, send it back. You'll get a text or an email back with the link so that you can get these slides for your review later. Just want to make sure you got it. So again, 6 secrets is what you're texting to 801-800-8823. All right, let's talk about the 6 secrets of leadership engagement. What is secret number 1? Taking out the trash. What? People, when I say that, they go, what are you talking about? What is taking out the trash? Well, here's what it is. We all have a number of experiences, assumptions, judgments, and even emotion that fill us up. In fact, in another training, I have a wonderful slide I didn't use today of a person who's looking through a glass of water, and the water is all the way to the top of the glass. I really believe that people are like glasses or containers of water. And all our experiences, our assumptions, our negativity, our judgments, and our emotions, our negative emotions, fill that glass up. And then sometimes what happens is a person says or does something, and it's like throwing a pebble in the glass of water, and boom, the water runs over the edge and gets all over everything and everyone. So if we could recognize what that's all about and remove the water or remove the trash, we create a space in ourselves that basically allows us to understand and interact with others more effectively. So the challenge becomes to rid ourselves of the debris, the energy, the emotion, the thinking that often fills us up and impacts how we interact with others. Let me give you an example. I was in a meeting not long ago with a bunch of attorneys discussing how someone had been violating our copyrights and trademarks. It was a pretty tense meeting, and I left the meeting and went into another meeting about 20 minutes later. This was a meeting with my team, and I started the meeting, and after about 20 minutes, someone said, can I ask you a question? Kind of timidly. I go, sure, well, what's going on? Are you angry with us? And I go, what do you mean? Well, you're just kind of tense and you're being very emotional and abrupt. And I went, whoa. I said, gosh, I'm sorry. So I apologized. And I told them where I'd been and what we'd been talking about. They go, oh, okay. So notice, I hadn't cleared myself or grounded myself of my emotion and the judgments and assumptions I was holding from a previous experience. So they showed up in the present experience. That's what I'm kind of talking about. So what would the skill be for taking out the trash, for clearing ourselves? We call this skill finishing sentences. So finishing sentences allows you to discover and release what's going on in your head. So here's how you do it. I'm feeling the emotion. So in this case, I'm angry because, and then finish the sentence as many times as you can. So if I use the example that I just shared, and somebody said, why are you angry? Well, I'm angry because I hate having to deal with people who feel like they can just take anybody's content and use it as their own. I'm angry because I hate the drama this creates in my life and how it makes me worry about what the outcome will be. I hate that people have to deal with lawyers because lawyers sometimes get nasty, and that doesn't exactly put on a real goodwill type professional face in the community. I'm angry because I got to pay for it. I'm angry because it takes a long time to resolve these kind of disputes, and I don't have time for that. I got a ton of other things going on. So, do you notice what I'm doing? I'm finishing sentences to identify, if you will, what's going on in my head. And the reason is because my head is what drives my feelings. So if I can surface what I'm thinking and then I can examine it, then I can challenge it for its accuracy. I can say, is this absolutely the truth? Now, there's a couple ways to do this. I like to write these out. I like to take a piece of paper and go, I'm angry because, and finish that sentence maybe 50 times, at least a page or 2 pages worth. That allows me to look back at what I wrote and laugh and dismiss those statements that really don't make much sense, or to contemplate and think about the other reasons that I've recorded that may be driving my feelings. Other people have a respected other that they might say, I'm going to finish these sentences out loud. Just listen to me and take a note or two of what you think is significance. So they'll basically do it. I'm angry because I have to pay for this. I'm angry because I hate the drama. I'm angry because, and your person could basically just take notes on what you're saying. Still, some people like to do it out loud, but I'd recommend you go into a closet and finish the sentence as many times as you can so people won't think you're just lost your marbles by talking to yourself. Does that help? So let me give you an application. This is Richard. Richard was an executive vice president, legal counsel to a manufacturing company. His company had 1,000 employees, and company turnover was about 25% a year, which was costing the company about $17.5 million every year. We went in and identified that management, leaders and managers, were being very abusive, autocratic, and very disrespectful. And that's why people were leaving. So what we decided to do was teach and coach people in real talk skills. We have a course called Real Talk, Creating Real Conversations for Results. And in the first year of teaching all the leaders and managers and even the employees, we reduced turnover by 43%, and in the second year by 96%, and by the third year, basically turnover almost was non-existent. So what was the bottom line? What we did was we taught these leaders and managers an understanding, gave them an understanding of how they were showing up or coming across to their people. Very, very disrespectful. Once we had them identify that and then had them identify the trash, take out the trash and get rid of it, the emotion and the disrespect in the way they dealt with others went away. So notice taking out the trash allows a person to remain calm when dealing with conflict and even difficult people, which increases a person's willingness to engage. Secret number 2, become a trained observer. Well, there's things going on all the time, but we just don't often observe what's happening. This is what we call the process of perception. Let me explain. You notice the person to the right is observing this event through this lens. So the event in this case is kind of a tree. Notice on the lens it says mental models. Often people refer to this as a paradigm, or some people refer to it as a belief window. The actual term in social psychology is a schema. So this lens, I just often refer to it as a perceptual filter or lens. We make observations through the 5 senses through this lens and engage in the process of selection. So this person viewing or observing this event sees leaves, but any of you could see different things. You could see the shape of the tree. You could see the type of tree, the type of wood, the board feet, the apples in the tree, or the grass on the ground, or the whole forest behind it. But the point is that none of us see or observe the same event in the same way. Then what we do is take this selected piece of data and we filter it through our mental models again. And this is where we add stuff we like and subtract stuff that we're unfamiliar with or we don't like. And then, like pieces of a puzzle, we fit those pieces where we think they all fit and make some interpretation about what that information means. But notice these black spots. They're intended to portray gaps or blanks in your thinking. So this gap here really tells you these pieces of the puzzle don't fit. But we ignore that and make them fit anyway. So oftentimes I'll say to people, give me a one-word adjective when I tell you where I grew up and tell me what you think. And so I'll say Southern California. And some people will say liberal, some people will say surfer, some people will say overcrowded, which is kind of funny. And then I'll just say, just notice, you're making some pretty broad generalizations. Is everyone in California basically a surfer? And the answer is no, but we ignore that gap and make it fit anyway. We do know this, that the way we think, interpret, causes us to become emotional. Sometimes people hold their emotions in, that's why it's inside the box, and others are an open book, so their emotion is outside the box. But this much we know. The way we think drives our emotion, which then influences the way we act or react. And those actions produce results which go back into the data pool which we observe. Let me give you an example. Somebody wrote about this in Forbes 2 years ago. Very interesting case. There were 30 interns that were hired by a financial firm in New York City. After working for about a month, one of the interns noticed that there was an employee there who wore pretty casual clothes and kind of flat canvas type shoes, which ran contrary to the dress code of the company. The company had a very formal dress code, shirt and tie and coat, leather shoes. And this individual thought this was not very fair. So he got his other interns together, friends, and they all talked about it and they were frustrated and upset. So what did they do? They wrote a proposal proposing that the dress code or standard for the company be relaxed so that they were able to wear casual shoes and maybe jeans and some casual shirts. So they presented that proposal to the managing partner and thought, you know, we got a pretty good case. A week later, the managing partner and some other partners called all the interns into the conference room to discuss the proposal, except for one. There was one who would not sign the proposal to change the company dress code. He was excluded. They called the 29 interns in and said, you're all dismissed. They fired him. They go, wow, why? They were upset. He said, because of conduct unbecoming and unprofessional. So one of them said, well, we noticed this person not following the dress code, so why should she be allowed to wear the kinds of clothes she is and the shoes she's wearing and not us? It's not fair. And the managing partner said, if you had taken a moment to ask her, perhaps you would have discovered that she did 2 tours in Afghanistan and lost one leg and damaged her other from a roadside bomb. That's why we allow her to wear the casual clothes that she does and the casual footwear. So notice what happened. They observed one person not following the company dress code. They selected on that and interpreted not fair. And emotionally, Maybe they were frustrated and angry, and then the action they took was to write a proposal to change the company's dress code. And then they submitted that, and what happened? They all got fired. And here's the thing that's important to understand about selection. Because we're selecting through this lens, the selection process renders our thinking often incomplete or inaccurate. So the challenge then becomes, right, to become a trained observer, which is about noticing the information we're seeing and our own thoughts. Just remember, you cannot manage what you can't see. So the challenge becomes to challenge the accuracy of your thinking. So how do you do that? We don't think about our thinking. So notice the skill is ask, what am I thinking? And surface that. And then challenge your thinking by asking one of these two questions. Is my thinking absolutely true? Or is there another way to interpret what I'm observing? So notice if I'd been one of the interns and I said, well, this isn't fair. She gets to wear something we don't. Is there another way to interpret what I'm observing? They never did that, and so they never got a chance to challenge their thinking, and then they acted on it. It was incomplete and inaccurate, and they ended up losing their summer position because of it. So here's a great case study. By the way, just know that one contrary point in your thinking challenges the whole. Okay? This is Vicki. She was an executive vice president of human resources in a major bank in the Midwest. They had no accountability and very poor customer service. So she brought us in to undergo a culture change. For example, the no accountability part, they'd never really measured anything. The average teller at the time when they measured it was seeing about 7 customers per hour, while the industry standard was actually 15 customers per hour. And their bankers were seeing about 7 customers a day, and the industry standard was 24 customers a day for a banker. So once we got those measurements, we kind of created expectations around how we wanted people to kind of step up and serve customers. But then we run into the other problem, which was poor customer service. Now, the bank had spent a significant amount of money creating online banking, use of a new banking, a mobile app for people's phones, virtual deposit. That's where you can take a picture of a check and mail it in, and they'll cash it. You just kind of keep it. And the tellers, and specifically, were not talking to the customers about all the opportunities. So when we went and talked to them about it, we measured that. That's how we knew they weren't doing it. Well, we're not salespeople. We weren't hired to sell. We're here to basically do the banking transactions. Besides, these people are our friends. We can't all of a sudden force something on them. And so we said to them, look, we're not asking you to force what the bank offers on people. We're asking you to view yourself as a trusted advisor. And of course, we got the blank stares. And we said, look, what if you just said to people something like this? Would you like to save time and manage your finances in a way that's easier? If so, I could show you some things that could help you. Would you be interested in that? And they kind of went, oh. Said it's not about selling, it's about serving customers and helping them be more efficient, more effective. So where the employees wouldn't expand customer service, once we helped them realize that their thinking was, oh, we can't do this. Oh, we're not a salesperson. So notice with that term, trusted advisor, we changed the way they were thinking about it and kind of gave them a script of what they might say that would offer a service, and then allowed the customer to say yes or no to expanding their knowledge about services. As part of that initiative, we taught Real Talk as part of a company-wide culture change, and we were able to increase the amount of customer service and the use of all the tools the bank had created for their customers. So notice, bottom line, if you can notice your thought, it helps you to see your thoughts and impact productivity. So once we showed people that their thinking was negative about what we were asking them to do and changed their thinking, it changed their behavior, which changed the results. So noticing your thinking and challenging that thinking for accuracy becomes extremely important if you want to change your results. Secret number 3, ask, don't tell. Bottom line, we have way too much telling going on and not enough asking. Not enough asking. So notice that asking questions creates respect. I like to say that the easiest way to create respect is to ask a question. Bottom line, it suggests that what? You want to know and you ask, and it also implies that you'll listen to what people will say, which is exactly what you want to have happen. Also, if people feel comfortable and they answer your question, it will force them to reveal themselves. We're going to tell you what they're thinking and what's going on with them. So, look at the difference here. You need to do this by tomorrow at 4. Notice the difference between just making that statement or making a tell and doing this. Can you do this tomorrow by 4? Or will you do this tomorrow by 4? Or what do you need from me to get this done by 4? Or is there anything that will get in the way? Do you see the difference in questions? Notice, by the way, can goes to ability, will goes to motivation. What do you need from me is about support. Is there anything that'll get in the way is about barrier identification. So if I ask, can you do this tomorrow by 4, and I get a rolled eyes and kind of a stammer, yeah, do you believe that? No. So then I got to ask more questions about what's going on. Otherwise, if I just say I need you to do this tomorrow by 4 and I walk off, there's a strong likelihood that I'm not going to get it. So we were talking about increasing engagement. We were talking about improving your leadership. Asking questions at the end of statements is one of the ways to do that. So here's the skill. You can increase contribution and engagement by ending in a question. For example, when making a statement, always end in a question. I think this is what we should do. What do you think? Or, I need you to do this by 4 tomorrow. Can you do it? Is there something that'll get in the way? What can I help with? Notice if I end with those questions, I get a chance to find out what's going on and whether or not they can actually do what we're asking them to do. I often like to say, if you don't ask, you'll never know. So in asking questions, not only do we increase clarity, but also contribution. So here's a case story. Here's Dane. Dane's the CEO of a large aerospace company with challenging collaboration problems. So here's what happened. The customer complained that production time and costs were too high and time was too long. It was taking this company 18 months to produce this particular product. And obviously it was the government they were working for, wasn't happy. So what did they do? We studied what was happening and found out that teams and departments were operating in silos. Consequently, there was poor teamwork working across those team lines, and this was killing efficiency. So what we did is taught them Real Talk as a strategy to improve teamwork and cut production time. We were able within a year to cut production time from 18 months to 11 months, which saved significantly on costs in a timely way in delivering this product. So notice that when you ask questions, it helps you to gain understanding and clarity around accountability, around productivity, and around efficiency. And that's what we did. That's what we did. Secret 4, be patiently present. Listen after ask. Now, so what's being present about? Being present is about both listening and attending to all the messages that are sent. We often hear what people say, but we don't often attend. So attending deals with all the messages messages that are being sent via feelings or tone or specific words or actions. We don't often watch for those messages, right? The other thing that kind of happens is we all have people that often complain, blame, or talk negatively. Now, this is a different way of listening to people, but what I'd like you to understand is that negativity that shows up in complaints, blame, and negativity represent a positive value. Think about that. The negative statements people make really represent a positive value that from the person's perspective are being violated. For example, let's say someone says to you, "You never listen to me." And you just ask yourself this, well, what's the value in this statement? Well, obviously, they're telling you, I have something to say, or I wish you'd give me your attention, or I wish you'd listen to me. But like I said, we're not used to hearing the positive that's hidden behind the negativity. Now, the way to kind of uncover this is to do what we call empathy. Empathy is something that often people will struggle with. So here's a question you can ask yourself that might help you to be more empathetic. So you ask yourself, what would a person have to think and feel in order to say or do that? So let's say I give an assignment to someone and I can see they're upset. They're walking around mumbling and complaining, 2 days, really? Oh my gosh, I doubt it. How can I ever do this? That's the kind of things that they're saying. So what do you think they're thinking? Well, it has something to do with time because we heard that. You can see they're frustrated. So what am I going to do? I'm going to reflect the feelings. I noticed you're upset. I'm going to guess at what that emotion means. Is it because of something I said or did, or in the example I just gave you, is it because maybe I didn't give you enough time to finish what I'm asking you to do? So notice all they have to say is yes or no. Now, I do want to say one thing that I didn't put in the slide. So if you're taking notes, notice I said reflect feelings, but not everybody demonstrates, their negativity with feelings. Some do it with words. Some do it with actions. So I could say, I noticed you said, "Oh, great." Is that because you disagree with my decision? Or I noticed that you attended the meeting, here's an action, and didn't say anything for 2 hours. Is it because you disagreed with the direction we were going? So notice, I can reflect not only feelings, but also words and actions. And once I've done that, I can guess at what that means. And if you do this, people will often just, yeah, that's it, or no, that's not. And if they said, no, that's not it, then ask an open-ended question, well, what is? So notice, the bottom line here is that empathy is great because it helps you to uncover the meaning, what's going on in a person's head, what they're thinking behind the emotion or the conflict or the disengagement. You just reflect feelings, words, or actions and guess at the meaning. And it really says what? I'm trying to understand what's going on with you because I care about you. Secret 5, be personal to everyone. So what's being personal about? I've actually thought I should have changed this to being appreciative. So I've noticed in my career that some leaders seem to care more about results than they actually care about the people who are working hard to get those results. Where we ought to realize that the people doing the work want to be valued for their work and the contribution that they make. So if we could start recognizing others' performance, to them, it will improve their contribution. But the challenge is you have to start noticing when people are doing the right thing. It's like putting on that set of glasses called the right thing glasses, and you have to notice what they're doing in order to recognize it and express acknowledgement and appreciation. So what's the skill? I just said, say something. And so here's how you do it. You can up the sincerity factor in recognizing people by stating the data, what the person did. I noticed you finished your report 2 days early. Then share the impact or the consequences of their action. That allowed me to prepare ahead of time for my presentation. Gave me 2 extra days. And the express, make a statement of gratitude. I really appreciate your work. Thank you. And I didn't add this, but man, call them by name. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. So notice the sincerity factor is upped because how many of us have had somebody say, hey, great job yesterday, or great job on that presentation today, and you're going, whoa, what was great? But you don't want to ask for fear of looking like you don't know what you're doing, so you don't say anything, but you wish like anything you knew what was great so you could do it again. So when you say, here's the data, here's the consequences of the impact of what you did, and here's an expression of gratitude and appreciation, it says to the person, I notice what you did, and I get it, and I'm appreciative. Thank you. So the bottom line is being appreciative or being personal demonstrates care and concern, and it creates engagement. Secret 6, give people purpose. Share responsibility. This is particularly important with younger employees. So what do you do when you share responsibility? You take a project and you either take a mini project or a task and you make them responsible and accountable for that particular task. This allows them to learn and to grow. So you want to pick a task and identify the parameters of what it is that they absolutely need to do. And then you assess their ability. Can they do it? And you may need to talk to them about it, which is a great thing to do because you're basically assessing what's going on with them. And you assign them a task and you let them do it and you have them return and report frequently. So notice, oftentimes people are saying, man, I want to be doing something around a purpose that's bigger than myself. So what you're doing is creating purpose within the individual by giving them a task and making them responsibility, right, for the outcome of that. So bottom line, giving a person something to own creates purpose for their work. Great way to create engagement, learning, and responsibility. Now here's 7 mistakes to avoid. I just thought I'd throw in, but they're worth a lot. Don't withhold information. If you withhold information and people are talking, they're going to make it up, and they'll make it up in the worst possible way. You're better off to tell people what you can tell them, and if it changes, tell them immediately. Make yourself available, not scarce. Some leaders get so busy and there are so many meetings, they're not around for help and support of their people. If you have to do that, then make a schedule so people know when they can reach out and connect and get what it is that they need to do their jobs. Don't fail to listen to what people have to say. That happens oftentimes because we just get too busy. And people know what's going on. So if we don't listen, then we're going to miss something. Don't be a know-it-all. When you're a know-it-all, then people are thinking, well, then I'm not going to tell you all what I know. So you miss an opportunity to learn, particularly if you have a large team. The people that do the work may know more than you do. You may assume you know, but you'll never know unless you ask. Asking and taking the time to listen will help you understand whether you know it or not. Don't micromanage everyone and everything. If you're doing that, you're really demonstrating that you don't trust your people. And you may not trust them because you don't know if they have the ability to do what you're asking them to do. Or you may even have a bad history with them. So take the time to assess where people are, what their skill level is, give them the assignment and let them go. If you need to course correct, then course correct. Don't micromanage everything they do. Say one thing and do another. If you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the talk. You can't say one thing and do another. Basically, it erodes trust and credibility on your part if you do that. And finally, don't blame others. If you're to blame, then take the blame. But even if somebody doesn't perform in the way that you expect them to, if you just took the time to say, look, what did you learn? If you had it to do over, what would you do differently? What do you think we ought to do going forward? I mean, people know when they've messed up, and asking those questions are much more helpful about getting the person to think. So what do you do now? Look, you don't have to lead your team the way you've done in the past. There are things that you can do that will help you improve. Today, I promised that I would help you understand how to connect with people that would increase engagement. That happens by asking questions, by being personable, by appreciating them, by helping them to be successful. And how to lead effectively helps you and your people to achieve results. You can expand your capacity to be the leader that you want to be. So what do you need to do to win? You want to take out the trash. You want help. You got to remove the stuff that's filling up people's glass and making them react in an emotional, negative way. You've got to be a trained observer, understanding what you're seeing and what your thinking is, and learn to challenge your thinking. We ought to do more asking and less telling. The asking will tell you what you want to know about whether they can do what they want to do. We ought to be patiently present with people. Understand all those messages that they're sending we don't often recognize, particularly looking for the positive values or messages behind the negativity. We want to be personal and appreciative of those who work and establish value for what they do and their contribution. And finally, you want to give people a purpose, and you do that by carving out projects or tasks that people can do and allowing them to go do it and learn, coaching and mentoring if we need to. So just answer me, what doesn't communication affect in your business? I believe it has everything to do with the way we interact, connect, and relate to one another and how we get the work done. So when doesn't connecting with people not impact the bottom line? In fact, I was surprised to find these statistics recently. Moz, in their survey, found that 85% of employees are unsatisfied with the quality of the communication in the workplace. And Clear Company HRM, another company, identified that 86% of employees and executives cite ineffective communication for workplace failures. Man, if that's going on, right, what could increased engagement do for your bottom line? In fact, just for fun, I created this. If we take $100, we say that 70% of people are disengaged and the other 30% are engaged. And by the way, the research says of that 30%, 18% are actively disengaged and 12% are apathetic. But still, if we put the lost productivity and profitability funnel up, you got 70% of your workforce disengaged, you're only operating on 30% capacity. So now you have a choice. You came today to learn something about increasing engagement and improving your leadership. So how can I help? My team and I have set aside some time in the next 48 hours to speak to you personally about how you can increase the engagement of your people starting today. Whatever your biggest challenges are, we've seen it. We know how to overcome it. So how can I help? On this session, we'll work with you to craft a step-by-step game plan that will help you to improve accountability, increase productivity, handle difficult or emotional people, and achieve results. You'll be able to power up your interactions with your people to increase engagement. So what's the cost? It's absolutely free. So who's this for? If you got to be 100% committed to improving your leadership and the engagement of your people. You must be genuinely interested in improving how people work together. And you must be interested in improving your bottom line. If that's you, then book a session now. Tell you how in a minute. So why am I doing this? We do this because we love giving back, helping organizations to communicate more effectively. Plus, we know that you might want to our help to transform your business. And if so, we can discuss it, see if it's a good fit for both of us. If it isn't, that's fine too. So here's what you do. Schedule a time to talk with us by going to dialogueworks.com/apply. Now, if you go there and just type that URL in and go there, it'll bring up a form and you can pick a time when you want to talk. Once you submit that, I want you to wait just for a second because it'll bring up a form that I want you to fill out that talks about some of your engagement kind of challenges that will help us understand how we can help you. So one of our clients recently said this, and I grabbed it. We selected DialogueWORKS to build a customized leadership development program for our first level managers. They provided us with practical tools to set goals and conduct effective performance conversations, particularly those difficult conversations. I highly recommend DialogueWORKS for your management training initiative. I want you to know that in the 25 years I've been doing this, we know what your challenges are and how you can help. Please schedule a time to talk to us, again, by going to dialogueworks.com/apply. I hope that you've learned something today that will help you. I can say that if you just take one thing and apply it, you'll start to see some changes and some differences. I hope you captured 6 secrets and the phone number, 801-800-8823. If you want the slides, text us and you'll get them. I appreciate you attending today. I hope you've learned something in the secrets that will help you to increase your leadership engagement. After all, organizations don't perform, people do. You can accomplish results through people. Thanks for listening and have a great day.